we have been here for like half the semester now. Some of you may not know me, so let me introduce myself a little bit before we start. I'm Chloe, a third-year student in dramatic arts. Today, I would like to talk to you about the American independent cinema. The purpose of this talk is to put you in the picture about what American independent cinema is. I have divided my talk into 3 parts, which are the definition of the independent cinema, a very brief history of American independent cinema, and lastly, some film examples for you guys. I shall only take not more than 8 minutes, and would like to be glad to answer all your questions at the end of my talk. So let's start with the definition of independent cinema. I can see many of you guys are familiar with the word independent cinema, independent films, or in short, indie. But what really is the definition of independent cinema? Is there a French film with no sound, or a film that you have no idea what you're watching? Or maybe a film that made no money to the producers? But actually, those are not really the definition of the independent cinema. The independent cinema is a film production resulting in the feature film that is produced mostly or completely outside the film studio system like Hollywood. In addition to being produced and distributed by the independent entertainment like Miramax or Weinstein, independent cinema isn't about the money. It's all about the distance between the film and the major film studio system. Let's move on to a very brief history of the American independent cinema. As you already know the definition of independent cinema, the United States is this country of the Hollywood, the major film studio system. So that's where it all began for the American independent cinema. The American indie was created in order to entitle Hollywood. Like many filmmakers especially in Europe, like France or Germany, there's no clear historical point of starting or no single definition of the American independent cinema. But it was believed that the American independent cinema was influenced by the American avant-garde, which is another genre of the film. The filmmakers, they try to make their own films with their own power and try to explore as much as possible. In order to give more vision of the American independent films and cinema, I'm going to give you some examples, and that brings us to the last part of my talk. I'm going to give you some examples of the American indie films. The first one is the most famous of that time, Stranger Than Paradise, directed by Jim Jarmusch in 1984. I know this is not really into you, but this film is telling us about the absurdity of the new generation, and the film's always cut black, like you blink over your eyes. So I know maybe you're just wondering why I choose this. This is the most famous of that time, and Jim Jarmusch is debuted from that film. So I'm going to give you another example. Maybe you will love it. Another example is, do you know the Before trilogy by Richard Linklater, the same director of Boyhood? The Before trilogy includes Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, the first one, sorry, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. There are the story of 2 people, Jesse and Celine. The first one, the Before Sunrise, they meet on a train and get off together to explore Vienna and spend the time before sunrises. 9 years later, the Before Sunset, they meet again in Paris, but they're both in a new relationships, and they have time only before sunset to be together. And the last one, Before Midnight. 9 years later, somehow they end up together, and the the last one, the before midnight, is the reminisce of their own lives and what different choice might have brought if they're not together. The thing that makes this trilogy so special is that Richard Linklater actually filmed the film in the actual times. You will see the same cats with they grow old together, just like that. And you will hear them talk and talk and talk, and somehow that really reflects our thoughts too. If you would like to watch them, I really recommend to watch them separately because you will feel the separation of the characters, and these films were made to be feel, not just watch. To sum up, I have told you the definition of independent cinema, a very brief history of American independence, and lastly, example of the American indie films like Stranger Than Paradise and Before Trilogy. I want to encourage you to watch these American independent films, not just watch it, but feel it. Maybe you will love it, who knows? Thank you for your lovely attentions, and let's roll into the questions right now. Okay, you go first. Yes, thank you.
I'm just wondering what got you interested in indie cinema, and particularly you mentioned like Stranger Than Paradise, for example, being a little bit before you were born. Not before I was born, sadly. So what got you interested in this particular genre, and particularly in the more sort of historical examples of this?
Thank you for the question. The thing that got me into this genre in the film is the feeling when you watch it. The mainstream don't get you to those feelings. This reflects how people behave in real life, and somehow the Stranger Than Paradise is really talking about our generations. And I think the feeling after you watch it, you will think more about your own life. So the film was meant to be feel, not just watch. And I think the American independent cinema is really answered that for him. Thank you. Is that answer your question?
It does.
Thank you.
Okay, yes. What is your opinion towards film that, well, the makers say it's an independent film, but really it's just a mainstream film?
You mean like the director say that it's an Indian film, but as the watcher or the viewers, you said it was just a mainstream like that. Thank you for the question. That's really interesting. I think the genre was meant to be just put together the idea of what that film is all about, but not to discriminate, or it's not meant to discriminate the viewer from those films. So if you're interested to go watch the film by just the director say it was indie, I think it was good. You just go watch the film and then you decide what is that film is all about. Maybe it depends on your own opinion or your own experiences. The film genre is just made to categorize more clearly of what is that film is in. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yes?
I heard from your answer that the independent film just make you know that just make you really feel how people behave in the real way, right?
Yeah.
But I just wonder that is